it's like anything you debate. So I'm sitting there debating somebody on the topic of guns, and there's no way I can win this debate. I'm like, why is this person debating it with me in such a strong way? There's no matter what I say, this woman's not gonna. And I eventually realized, her kid, her husband, they believed in guns. They let the gun out. The kid grabs it and shoots herself, and boom. I mean that. So no matter how, the more you debate this person on the freedoms of gun and Second Amendment, the more she's hating you, the more she's like, the more, so there's no winning that debate, right? So for me, there's not a black and white in this when it comes down to talking, because everyone's got a little bit of a different story, and that's personal. The only thing you know is your life. The only thing I know is my life. The only thing we know is to get and then whatever books we get our hands on. It's kind of tough to get to the truth on the other way around. But if you don't mind taking the argument that you made, I thought it was so profound. I wouldn't mind you unpacking that a little bit more, where you said, if there's all these arguments, if there's all these 2 billion Christians, you got 1.1 Muslims, why is it that those 1.1 Muslims believe everybody else who doesn't believe in their God is an atheist? Or, the argument you were making. Would you mind going through that argument on why you think man created God rather than God created man?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that in a moment, but you brought up a good example of guns. Guns are another religious-like value that people hold. It's, in my opinion, because I've done a number of gun debates, I think we do need some gun control, even though I used to be against gun control as a former libertarian, now classical liberal. I discovered that people, that belief in guns is a proxy for something else, for freedom, for liberty, for the American way, for some deeper value. So in that extent, it doesn't matter how many people are shot every year and homicides, accidental childhood, guns going off and things like that. It's irrelevant. There's no amount of people that could die that's going to change the way they feel about guns, because it's not about the guns. It's about the Second Amendment. It's about Constitution, freedom, liberty, autonomy, self-defense, and these kind of deeper features. And so a lot of religious truths work that way. And so it's, whenever you're talking to somebody about politics or religion, it's always good to figure out what's the deeper moral value behind the specific thing they're talking about, immigration or abortion or whatever. Because if they're pretty stubborn and stuck on the belief that, and they're not going to change because it represents something deeper, then it's really a waste of time to go through like this data and statistics on gun violence or abortion rates or immigration rates or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I think religions operate that way, that this is my religion. This is what I believe. That's it. Full stop. I'm not interested in debating it. And you could go through, like atheists do, they can go through all the different arguments for God and why they don't hold water. And therefore it's more likely there's not a God than there is a God, and so on. But that's irrelevant to somebody that believes for some other reason. This gives my life meaning or purpose. It's what my family is all about. It's all my friends and my social network are all of this religion. I see everybody every week, and we all go through the rituals together, and it gives my life meaning, and good music and social camaraderie. So the arguments that you might make, like I will in just a moment, are really irrelevant to the believer. So now on that subject of man creating God. So here I take the approach of an anthropologist or a social psychologist of religion, of which there are many who study this, that again, going through where we started with, the predictors of people's religiosity. But it also depends, if you take it up one more scale, where you happen to have been born in the world and what century you were born in or what millennium. If we were born, you and I or anybody in the world, anybody born more than, say, 2,500 years ago, time of the ancient Greeks, there were no Christians. You wouldn't be a Christian because Christ wasn't born yet. Jesus wasn't born yet. There were no Christians, and or Mormons or Scientologists or anything else. So very much, religion, very much the God you happen to believe in is very much determined by where on earth you happen to have been born by chance, and what century or millennium you happen to be born. To me, that in conjunction with the fact that no religion has any particular purchase on truth, that is reliable knowledge that I have arrived at through empiricism and reason, and these are the 6 reasons I believe X, whatever it is. and there's some way to test it. Religion doesn't have anything like that. I mean, religious believers give their arguments. This is why I believe, but it isn't really why they believe. They believe for these other emotional, psychological reasons. And again, in some cases, that's okay. Like politically, there's no one right truth there. But the problem arises when religions claim that they have absolute truth. So in your case, in Iran, so you have religious conflicts there with no way to resolve the problem. Or if you want to just turn to the Arab-Israeli problem, basically you got two guys with they both have a deed to the same piece of land, and there's no escrow company to go to resolve who actually owns it, right? Because the escrow company is God, and each of them says, I have a direct line to God. He told me this is mine. And each of them says that, and the anthropologist from Mars goes, well, which one of you is right? And they each go, well, I'm right. And the other guy goes, I'm right. And there's no way to resolve it. There's no experiment we're going to run to go, oh, you're the right one, the other one's the wrong one, so they get the land. Historically, these things are always settled, violently through war, conflict. And but we can't do that anymore because of nuclear weapons. So we're probably going to be stuck with this Israeli-Arab problem, short of a two-state solution, which is the only way I can see could ever be resolved. Asking somebody, could we pay you for this particular piece of land? It's almost like asking somebody how much they would charge for sex or for dinner. If you have friends to have you over for dinner, what can I pay you? That's a sacred value. You don't put money on it. And there's a whole suite of beliefs like this, like organ donations. Why not sell your organs? Well, people are very uncomfortable with this idea. And same thing with prostitution. Most people are not comfortable, and sex workers that charge for their services, that used to be called prostitution, which has a negative valence to it because, again, people have certain sacred values that they'll never give up, that you can't put a price on. And that explains much of the world's conflict, I think.
So man created God, not the other way around. God created.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean, if you kind of lay it out, the different claims made by the different religions that are in conflict with one another, and the fact that flood myths are common amongst religions that were born and raised, that is the religion, on a body of water that floods, right? Or resurrection myths. Christians claim ours is unique, because we have the resurrection. No, that's not true. There's lots of religions with resurrected gods, and the theme of resurrection comes up a lot, either literally or metaphorically. And almost all born of a virgin. That this is also not unique to Christianity. There's lots and lots of examples of deities that are born of virgins, and gods having sex with humans in the ancient Greek and Roman world around the time Christianity came online. That was very common. Gods routinely came down from the heavens, had sex with mostly women, and then the result were the virgin births, right? This was not unusual at the time. And men could become gods or partial gods, and gods could become humans or partial humans. So this whole business that critics of Christianity have about how can you believe that Jesus was both God and the Son of God? How can that be? There's a problem of identity. You can't be both at the same time. Well, in the Roman times, when Christianity was born, that was quite common. Gods could routinely have sex and become human for a while, and then return to becoming just gods and go back to being human or partial human. And that was actually a common belief. So to me, all elements of all the religions are obviously socially constructed. People made them.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.